Our topic for today, Tommy, is most underrated WrestleMania matches of all time. So I got my list, you got your list, and I know the nation is going to have an opinion as well. Most underrated WrestleMania matches of all time. And my God, you got 40 WrestleManias to choose from. Most underrated WrestleMania matches of all time. The classics that don't get enough conversation.
All right. Well, I took this as a little different, as I sometimes do, because just when you think you got all the answers, I change the questions. I went to most memorable matches that don't get talked about enough, like kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah, no, but all right. Yeah, that's basically what it is. Most underrated matches. So that would be the definition of such.
But I did it from 1 to 20 because then it blended, like from WrestleMania 1 to 20. Can I still talk?
Yes, you could still talk, but this is where I have an issue.
I hear you.
First of all, like, why can't you just say most underrated matches? Why do you have to say the match from a WrestleMania that doesn't get talked about enough? Just say
well,
most
yes, underrated matches, but
yes.
they all start to blend in for me, like right after 20. And so I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I could have from my list of 20, then go to pick some others. But I was just like, you know what? Maybe I'll just have some fun and conversation pieces because it sparked my brain of some cool ass stuff. There's also some where I'm like, because I've always enjoyed every WrestleMania, I really have. But then like, I'm also going, then once you start wrestling and you're like, it just changes you a bit. So then I was just like, man, some of these matches were just atrocious. And some of these manias were horrible.
Yes.
But I never viewed them that way as a fan. So that's why I kind of went this route.
All right, a few things.
Okay.
And I'm not going to get on you because we're getting there. We're getting our party. So I'm in a really good mood. So I'm not going to get angry. But you gave me a few reasons to be, and let me explain. The assignment was.
It's a hard assignment.
Hold
I
on.
have a lot of things to do.
Okay, but the assignment was. But you made it harder on yourself.
Not
the
really.
assignment was pick 5 of the most underrated matches at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
5. Now, you decided to go the long route, the hard route, and said, all right, I'm going to pick the most underrated match from each WrestleMania, which I give you kudos to because that's a. But then you stopped halfway through. So not only did you not do the assignment correctly and you decided to do something else, but then you quit halfway through. If you would have came on here today and said, you know what, Dave, I know the assignment was top 5 most underrated WrestleMania matches of all time. But you know what? I took it a little different. I took the most underrated match from every WrestleMania. I've been like, all right, that wasn't the assignment, but good job making the extra effort. But you quit halfway through. So now, like, I don't know what to do with the information that you have because it's not the top 5 because it's not every WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. So you have 20, in your eyes, 20 underrated WrestleMania matches, but you're only looking at the first 20. What about the next 20?
I was busy.
But if you would have just done 5, it would have taken you less than half the time of doing an incomplete assignment.
Every WrestleMania, and then like even so, I was like, wait, Rock and Austin worked here? Oh wait, I forgot about that.
But now I don't know what to do here.
Okay,
like what do we do? Like
you could either give yours, and I also love that you're not getting mad. This is you not getting mad. How's your blood pressure? You should have a thing connected to you.
I got a lot of issues going into Vegas this year. I'm a
broken
man.
And my favorite is, if I really could even set you off even more, there's some WrestleManias I picked too.
All right, this is what we're going to do. You're going to give one match from each WrestleMania 1 to 20 that you felt was underappreciated and underrated. Then I will give my top 5 list. I have it ranked 5 to 1. My top 5 list.
Well, listen, there's also some WrestleManias, none. Zippo. So let me just start at number 1. WrestleMania 1.
Okay.
2 underrated matches, in my opinion.
All right.
Andre versus Stud, because Andre
Okay.
delivered the body slam, threw money in the crowd. I was there. It was amazing. Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik versus the U.S. Express. Shocking. Switched the titles. The crowd was frigging pissed. Barry Windham took a hell of a bump like he always did and shocked everybody when they won the title. And that was twice that the Iron Sheik has shocked the world at Madison Square Garden. What do you think of that?
Okay.
Now, you
I
can
like.
pick either.
If I had to choose, I would take the U.S. Express and Nikolai and here's why. I didn't think Andre Stud was a great match. But that tag match, I think, was very, very good. And you can make the case that that was the best match of the entire show. And nobody talks about that match at all.
Correct.
So I like that one. That's a very good one. All right.
Thank you. No good matches, 2, 3, and 4. I mean, 2 and 3. Now we go to 4. Demolition versus Strike Force.
Wait a second. Did you just say there was no good matches in 2 and 3?
No, no underrated matches. Everyone knows about Hogan. Everybody knows about Savage Steamboat. So,
all right, I'm gonna. You know what? One of my top 5 is a match. Don't guess.
okay,
One of my top 5s is a match from WrestleMania 3. But go on.
great. Nothing from 2. El Stinkeroonie. 2 and 9 could be the worst WrestleManias, and you made a great point for the Hartford one as well. Demolition versus Strike Force. I remember that to be shocking and a really, really good match. And a match that I don't think gets enough love, Savage versus DiBiase. New champion crowned.
Okay. All right.
Which would you say?
Savage DiBiase.
It's bad I have to put on my glasses for my own handwriting. All right, WrestleMania 5. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Rick Rude versus Ultimate Warrior. Or a match that I don't think gets talked about enough, Hogan versus Savage.
Rick Rude, Ultimate Warrior.
Okay. WrestleMania 6.
Mm-hmm.
A match that was really good. The main event. Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. It's a really good match. Doesn't get talked about enough in the history of the WWE.
People talk about that match all the time.
Okay.
That's not an underrated match. Moving on.
Thank you. 7. Warrior versus Savage.
People talk about that match all the time.
Okay. I'm just telling you about what was the best matches then. 8.
No, but wait a second. Time out. We are not doing
I thought
the
it was
best
underrated
matches.
because they used to shit all over Ultimate Warrior.
They did.
So great. So then they're off my list. You're helping me.
Okay.
8. Brett Piper. It's the only time Piper's done a clean job.
I'll give you Brett Piper. I'll give you Brett Piper. People do talk about that match, but I'll give you Brett Piper. I'll give it to you.
And the fact that it was Piper's like one of his few clean pins, getting pinned. 9, Yoko Brett, but it led into Hulk.
No.
Yoko.
Do you know what underappreciated?
It was a really good
is?
match.
You thought that was a great match?
Yoko Brett was a good match.
It was good. It wasn't great. And people talk about that all the time.
Okay. So then that's eliminated. Are you ready?
Yes.
WrestleMania 10 could go down as one of the better WrestleManias of all time.
It's a very good WrestleMania.
Out of all that, I don't think people talk about Brett and Yoko as much.
I'll give you Brett and Yoko.
All right, I could stop at 10 for now.
All right. From all the matches you said, I'm going to give you 2 out of these.
Okay.
From the first 10 WrestleManias.
So I'm getting 20%. Glad I did extra credit.
U.S. Express versus Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. Nobody talks about that match. Nobody. So I'm going to put that on your list. U.S. Express, Sheik, and Volkov. Okay? Nobody brings that match up. And then I'm going to put in Savage and DiBiase. Because I don't think people talk about that match either. So out of all those matches, I'm going to put on Savage DiBiase and U.S. Express against Sheik and Volkov. Fair?
Fair.
There's no wrong answers except for WrestleMania 31, Triple H and Sting. But other than that, I'm never going to say that anybody's wrong with this, though some of yours were pretty off the mark. So let's go to my number 5. Randy Orton, CM Punk from WrestleMania 27. WrestleMania 27, not a great WrestleMania. The main event is The Miz and John Cena, but it was just setting up The Rock versus John Cena, which we saw at WrestleMania 28. But a hidden gem to a WrestleMania card that you don't go to a lot. Usually when you talk about WrestleMania 27, you talk about the epic match between Triple H and The Undertaker, Tommy, but a hidden gem with Randy Orton and CM Punk.
Didn't even remember that the match happened.
All right, see, there you go. Now here's another match that people don't talk about. And they even don't really talk about the main event either. They talk about The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. But my favorite match from WrestleMania 19 is at my number 4. Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. By the way, I'm going to go on record and saying it right here. The most underrated, underappreciated pro wrestling feud of all time is the feud between Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels. Amazing feud that nobody talks about. And I think one of the earlier interviews that I did with Chris Jericho, I actually said, I wish they came out with a DVD talking about the story and the matches they had. Every match was amazing. The story was absolutely fantastic. And I loved that feud and the match they had at WrestleMania 19. All right, we're going to go back a long way to my number 3. From WrestleMania 3, number 3 on my list, Adrian Adonis and Roddy Piper. That's a match that nobody talks about. Roddy Piper's quote-unquote retirement match because he was going into acting. If Adrian Adonis lost, he loses his hair. Also, you forget how Piper came to the ring. Before Hogan did it in the main event, Piper walked to the ring. And that sight, and it's even better than Hogan's entrance because it was during the day. You see the 93,000 fans. When Piper looks around and just looks at the crowd, and man, I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about his entrance. But what a great match that he had with Adrian Adonis. Adrian Adonis, one of the most underrated, underappreciated wrestlers of all time.
I agree on that one, especially if you talk about that show. It's always Andre Hogan, Savage Steamboat 1 and 2, but not a lot of love for that match, and it was great. If you also think about like when you were a kid or as opposed to today, like when you're older, I feel the hair versus hair stipulation is so stupid. And because it's just like, okay, you're shaving a guy's head. But back then I would be like, oh my gosh, like it was the biggest deal in Memphis with Jerry Lawler. Like nobody shaved Jerry Lawler's head until Austin Idol and Tommy Rich did it. But like such a stupid stip. It also leads me to, but then I remember like Match Time, Molly Holly getting her hair cut was a most underlooked thing when that happened as well. And that was a female doing it, which is a lot bigger, more consequences.
No, it was embarrassing. You didn't see bald men much other than Telly Savalas and Kojak. Yep. Like, men even when men just had the little hair above their ears, they would like do the Rocky Pauly, like where you do the comb over, like, it was embarrassing. Now it's a completely different story. It's a style. It's cool. Yeah. People love it. Not back in the 80s, man. That's for sure. Thank God I still have my beautiful head of hair. All right. My number 2, and it's a match. I was watching WrestleMania 18 last night. How good Undertaker Ric Flair was. And how great Ric Flair was in that match. And, Jerry Lawler and JR weren't kidding. Like, I go back and watch that tombstone. It might be one of the best tombstones in Undertaker's career. It was the one he put on Flair. Flair on the offensive right away, taking Undertaker outside. Ric Flair, a bloody mess, and nobody bled better than the Nature Boy Ric Flair. The blood in his blonde hair. One of the few matches for The Undertaker during that streak where he's getting booed. What a great match. Amazing match. Ric Flair and The Undertaker from WrestleMania 18. And when you talk about, forget about WrestleMania 18, when you talk about the best matches that The Undertaker had during that streak, nobody brings up that match with Flair. But man, go back and watch it. It's one of the best matches Undertaker had during that streak.
The Arn Anderson spine buster.
Oh, so good.
Got everyone.
So good.
And Undertaker took it like he was a 20-year-old kid. The way he wrapped his legs. And it was like you all thought it was over. It was an amazing, amazing event.
Do yourself a favor. If you've never seen it or you haven't seen it in a while, go back and let me give you my number one. My number one, and it was for the WWE Championship. And obviously this is one of those matches, I guess CM Punk, thinking back now, never being in the main event, is the match that Punk had at WrestleMania 28 with Chris Jericho. And 28, you got people talk about Cena and The Rock. People talk about the end of an era, the Hell in a Cell match between Triple H and The Undertaker. But to me, the best match at WrestleMania 28 is CM Punk and Chris Jericho. And the stipulation that if Punk got disqualified, he would lose the title. And think about the story of what was going on when Jericho takes the bottle of booze and pours it over CM Punk talking about his father, Jericho bringing up Punk's father, who, Punk admitted had an alcohol abuse problem. Like, the story going into that match, absolutely amazing. The only thing better than the story is the match that they had. WrestleMania 28. Go back and watch it. It's a classic. And Tommy, my favorite match on the card, and it's a match that nobody talks about. Punk and Jericho had a special chemistry together. It's unfortunate we never got to see Punk and Jericho go at it in AEW. You had the opportunity to do it, but we saw Punk do great things with MJF. But man, what a great match at WrestleMania 28.
So Jericho's on twice. Your list. Is Punk on twice?
Yeah, number 5 had Orton and Punk. 4 had Shawn Michaels and Jericho. 3, Adonis and Piper. 2, Undertaker and Flair. And 1, CM Punk and Chris Jericho. And think about this. Think about my list. Because these are matches that fans don't really talk about. The Undertaker's on my list. Ric Flair's on my list. Punk's on it twice. Jericho's on it twice. So you look at those names and you're like, come on, underappreciated, underrated. But when you think of WrestleMania 19, nobody talks about Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. When you think of WrestleMania 28, nobody's talking about Punk and Jericho. WrestleMania 3, like you said, people talk about Savage and Steamboat, and they talk about Andre and Hogan. And I get that, but it's a hidden gem. Flair, Undertaker. When you talk about the streak, nobody brings up the match with Ric Flair. It's fucking fantastic. And then Punk and Chris Jericho at 1. Do yourself a favor. Watch those 5 matches before we get to Vegas on WrestleMania 41 next week.
It's a very, very good list you comprised there. To be honest, I don't remember Punk and Jericho. I remember once you said the feud. Also, doing all this, there are, how we always say, man, where there's people that you think 100% this happened and then you find out like it wasn't. Because I was just like, wait, where was Mark Merrow versus Sable? That was an amazing match. That happened at Mania. It didn't happen at Mania. And there was all these other great moments where I'm like, no, this happened at Mania. And then where'd that match go? And then I went and looked it up and it wasn't at Mania. It was either like at SummerSlam or Survivor Series, all that stuff. But it's just like funny how the mind thinks. As soon as you told me all that, I remembered everything, but I did not remember that match culminated at WrestleMania, which I will go back and watch because I love both those guys' work. But I asked if they're also both on the list, but you kind of answered it. Like, then who would you say would be the most underrated WWE superstar of all time if 2 of these guys are on your list?
I'm going to say this. The wrestler that's most underappreciated at WrestleMania is Chris Jericho.
Do you think it's because he doesn't work there?
No, I don't even think it has to do with that. I think he's, it's just that for whatever reason, the matches that he had and as good as his matches were, I'll even go WrestleMania 32. The best match at WrestleMania 32 is Chris Jericho and AJ Styles. It's the best match. Yeah, I think the most underrated, underappreciated wrestler at WrestleMania to me is Chris Jericho.
It's a good call. I think the more.
And you might, and you know what? You might, and it's kind of different now because it's the story going in for this year's WrestleMania, so it hits a little bit different. You could make a case for Punk, that Punk is the most underappreciated wrestler at WrestleMania. But the only problem why now is that it's become the story for this year's WrestleMania.